Hello, good evening, Facebook, TDN, and This Week in Interview fans. Of course, I say Facebook, so I have to say YouTube and Instagram and Roku and all the other media that carries that you watch This Week in Interview on. Welcome, no matter where you're watching us from or what media you're using, you're very welcome, and I'm happy that you can come and spend an hour with me tonight and my guest. A special thanks to the management of RVR Jams Radio in Dominica that carried this weekend interview on their station. You can catch them on DigiPlay channel 59. Also, online radio SBE in the Toronto market. SBE Radio carries this weekend interview live, and other stations as well. Some of them do it live, and some do it later down in the week. So, of course, I always want to say very great thank you to them for doing that. And as much as I am saying thank you to you also in the audience for joining us, it's great to be with you. Every week we pick up new listeners. So, if tonight is the first time that you listen to this weekend interview, welcome, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you on. And the regular listeners, of course, you already know that I treasure the decision that you make to watch this weekend interview live. This week we are doing another take of Green MAGA. I know we've staggered around a little bit, but we try to do it on the second Wednesday of every month where my guest, special guest, Pastor Adrian Banis, joins me and we talk about agriculture. We talk about his farm. He has a farm in Castle Bruce on the east coast of Dominica that everybody who ends up on the farm and just have so much high praises for the things that they are doing. He and his family are doing on the farm in Castle Bruce. And of course, they also are doing some agro processing, added value. They really run their farm as a business and experimenting or and implementing new methods. We've spoken about agroforestry, we've spoken about agro-tourism. We've spoken about community tourism that's centered around farming. And the program Green MAGA is really make agriculture great again because we want to talk about productive food production and sustainable agriculture. How do we get back to producing our own foods? What can we do with those foods to, say, for example, increase the shelf life of the food? What can we do to make them more stable? What can we do to make them more resilient? How do you organize your farm so that your farming practices match where you are? In other words, what type of soil, what amount of rainfall, sunlight, are you prone to flooding? Is your land sloping? All of those different characteristics we talk about to help you feel that you're not by yourself. You're not alone trying to figure and decipher all of these things as it comes to your farming and food production. So let's bring uh, Adrian up on screen and we're going to talk about just how can we, I know we've touched on that before, but that is where we have to keep it. How can we revive food production and agriculture and farming so that it becomes this wonderful career, this industry that all people can be proud to be part of, and how they can explore and jump in and see that they can make a really good and decent and honest living for themselves. So, Adrian, welcome back to this weekend interview. As usual, my brother, it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you very much. It's really a pleasure to be with you every second Wednesday and just talking agriculture. I just love to speak, to talk agriculture, especially making agriculture great again with a different mentality, a different mindset, not just, it's like marrying traditional farming with climate smart farming, and to see how we can provide to the public, provide to the nation fresh produce added value. So all the way will have products from Dominica, produce from Dominica which is fresh. Then we're going to have added value, and to do that, we have to put the systems in place. That is so important, to put the systems in place. As I said, the governments, they are talking about food security, but the Angota is just saying that in mouth and on paper. But to actually come on the ground and set the environment, or organize, have a plan, a strategic plan to put agriculture, to move agriculture to a place where it can become viable. So, as I said, I always say, and have said already, we have a NGO, which is a non-profit organization, and we are now working to see how we can take agriculture to and to bring agriculture to a viable level, so that people can feel and have that joy to plant, and feel when they plant that their things aren't going to waste anymore, because we have a system. And we want to do the system, they're calling it circular economy.
Mhm.
Means that you plant, you clean up, you plant, when the food grow, your waste, you add value, and you take the waste, you put it back into the soil. And one of the goals that we have is to make Dominica become the organic nation of the world, to produce organic food. We don't just want to produce food, but we want to produce healthy food. So we want to see how we can get rid of that bromoxone and that pesticide, and go back to eating natural food. So what one of the things that we want to work on is preparing to develop our own organic fertilizers, so that we can have it in mass production, so we can now use it to put back in the farm, and we can have Dominica stepping or moving forward as the organic center. That's my
So
opening statement.
yeah, so thank you. So I can bring it down to a personal level. I mean, knowing the community that we grew up in, this is going to be a question that I don't know how you're going to answer it. But if I have to ask you, how long have you been in agriculture? How long have you been a farmer? How would you answer that?
How long?
Yes,
I've been a farmer I started farming from age 15.
15. Okay.
When I say age 15, I'm talking about when you're at your home, you start planting a banana tree, you start planting I mean, you have the concept, you see your parents doing it, you just fall in love with it, and you want to do it also.
Right.
But when I left school, and then I got bigger, about I moved to my 18. I started 18 years, because I was also a Rasta. That's why I went into the hills, and I did a lot. I stayed in the hills for a whole year. We planted a lot of food.
Hmm.
Even if we go back, I go back to certain part of the hill in the mountain now. I sure will see trees that we plant. And then when I came back down, I then started going into farming in a big way. So then I moved into banana production. Then I started working with the DBMC as a extent as a I used to work at the boxing plant,
Okay.
where I used to buy the boxes, and then I moved to work on the field as an extension officer. From an extension officer, I moved to become a quality officer. Then I became uh, I became a quality control officer,
Hmm.
and then I started working in lift spot. So I was one who would go there and take various data to know whether we have to spray oil or spray whatever. Then with the BMC, I stayed and I went to Bible school. I came back, and then I when I got back into the system because of the work that I put in when I was there. So they called me back into the system, and I worked there for another 5, 6 years. So I already worked in the banana industry for, let's say, over 15 years. And then I moved on my own. But during that 15 years, I was always involved in banana production. I remember there was a time I used to cut 200 boxes, not finished, a fortnight. Something every week you'd make 100. And then then I moved into added value. So I started doing chips, banana chips. Then I moved to plantain chips. Then I moved to breadfruit chips. So it's over 20 years now that I'm doing breadfruit chips. And then lately, after Hurricane Maria, that's when I started climate smart agriculture, and then we are just moving forward now. I just love it because when I'm seeing the returns, not just the returns financially, but when I'm seeing the how much I can harvest out of the crops that I plant. Because some people told me that I planted I do agroforestry, but where is the forest?
Mhm.
Where is the forest trees? So I told them, well, how can I go and plant trees and have them watching me? And it was a very good idea that I received from the Holy Spirit. A very good idea. And when God, I always say, when God created us, He said He gave us the power to have wealth, but He gave us that gift so we can be innovative. And when I started, I started planting fruit trees,
Mhm.
cocoa, oranges, exotic fruits like sapadilla. Sapadilla is so nice when I tell you, my gosh, I love a sapadilla. Soon I will have a lot of sweet sops. I plant a lot on this and bearing now. I ate one the other day. It was very nice. And I plant a lot of oranges and tangerine. And now, right now, it's just raining fruits, pineapples, passion fruit, coconut. I plant over 200 coconut trees. So I'm saying all this to say, but to see the progression that I have made in agriculture from, and now my next move is to start going into full-time organic farming. This is my next goal.
That's good. All right. So let me ask you the other question now. After you've been in agriculture and you've been a farmer for so long, is agriculture and farming a profession that you would encourage your children to take up as a career,
Yeah,
as a way of life?
yes, my brother. That's what I used to send all my children to school, you know. I build what, one, two, 3 rooms in my house on banana cash
Hmm.
with banana money those days. And then that's what I used to send my children to school, both primary, secondary, and university. And now I'm still now. Today I was saying I was listening to that program on View, Global View on Q, and
Hmm.
I was listening to Mr. Nassif, and he was talking about how his father started, and I stayed listening. I say, boy, it's always good to listen when he was talking about entrepreneurship because I see what is happening today. Mr. That this government just call it everybody an entrepreneur. Everybody once they give somebody some money, they say they are entrepreneur. But it's not. It's not. They have to look at the difference between an entrepreneur and a business person. And he
Right.
was saying that his father, when he saw that there was no soap in Dominica and they had problems in getting soaps, he went into soap manufacturing. And so, so an entrepreneur is someone who looks for opportunity to to bring forth something innovative. and then he started the soap. And then not just started the soap, he brought the farmers and make them part of the company, gave them shares, and that person's what shares. So the farmers really became part of what he was doing, and they also had a share. And when the company closed down, they received their shares, and so that was very, very good. And then he continued to and that entrepreneurship skill passed on to his sons, you know. And I was saying today, I was in the room and I just meditated. I said, look at my daughter today. She's now taking the business to another level, which
Mm.
is more social media, coming up with innovative ideas. That's why it's always important to build a foundation. And when you have a foundation, your children coming after can now come up with creative idea to take it to where they are saying in my area where I'm ready to resign already. I'm ready.
So, so the reason why I ask you those questions is to sort of lay the foundation, establish how long you've been in farming,
Okay.
and which means that you have the full experience of farming. And having the full experience of farming, if when I ask you the question, would you encourage your children to become farmers and to go into agriculture? It was a spontaneous yes, which
Yes,
tells me that it's a genuine yes, and that over after all the years and all the ups and downs, because I'm sure there were downs and there are ups, you unequivocally says yes, I would if my children were interested in agriculture, I would 100% support them to
as a
go into
matter
that field.
as a matter of fact, I didn't have to tell them to go into agriculture. They just step into
Right.
to continue what I'm doing because they are seeing the bend. I tell you, it's always good to create a model or put something in place so people can see. So they are seeing what the returns are. They are seeing how long we are in it, and it have been beneficial to us. So I don't have to tell them to, hey, come in farming, or they themselves taking the initiative now and is now taking it to another level based on how
Based on
they
what they've
seen.
observed and they've seen. So, because
Yeah,
you know that is important, Adrian,
yeah.
because from our history as the descendants of people who were enslaved and enslaved in performing agriculture, it was almost a knee-jerk reaction that parents wanted their children to do something different because in their mind and in their emotion they associated agriculture with hard work, very little returns, a lot of pain, and a lot of hardship. And so, like every parent, they would want to move their children away from that. So our culture naturally had that, where we would revere other professions, teacher, a doctor, a lawyer, a policeman, all these other careers. We would encourage them and sort of discourage our children from working the soil. How, however, we we have enough knowledge now, and I think as a people, our culture and our social sense should evolve now to say, okay, as they say, you throw out the baby with the bathwater. We as part of our emancipation and our freedom mentality, we associated it with going away from agriculture. But now we can pause and we can look back and we can say, listen, agriculture is not what gave us pain.
Mhm.
They used us in agriculture and they caused us pain, and therefore we can look back and say, but if let's take the British Empire for example. The British Empire used agriculture mostly in the West Indies, in Africa, in Asia. They used agriculture to build empires that are lasting for centuries. When can we as a people now look at that and say, but we have the same resources that they used? Now we are in control of those resources. Can we look at what they did when they did agriculture and follow a similar model to create our own, maybe not empire, but at least create an economy, an economic environment where our people can enjoy the spoils of our resources as much as these folks did? Because they use agriculture, yeah, they use free labor, but we have technology and we have machinery that they did not have. That means that we don't have to go and enslave other people to do it. We can use technology, we can use knowledge and skills. But the point I'm making is that the British Empire, the French, the Dutch, the Germans, the Portuguese, all of these people went into the and colonized nations, and most of them was involved in agriculture. Those are not involved in agriculture were involved in supplying the agriculturists. But they made fortunes, and up till today, you have multi-million, multinational companies that were created back then, and they're still thriving. Our people managed to wrestle, by and large, those resources away from them. Let's take Dominica, or take the Caribbean, for example. We took control of the land. How, therefore, we should be able to use that same land to make a living for ourselves. And so when I ask you the question about how long you've been in agriculture, and you tell me pretty much all your life, because if you start at 15, that's your entire life, and you have no hesitation, you wouldn't discourage your children that wanted to go into agriculture. It tells me that I am correct in saying that what we need is a reset of our mind
Yeah.
about agriculture, and look at it as an opportunity where we can encourage our kids and the young people and society to pay attention to agriculture and see how we can use it as a vehicle to enhance life. And so let's explore some of the other areas that you saw in all your years of experience. You spoke about adapting agriculture to suit our conditions. So you spoke about agroforestry. Let's take 5 minutes and remind people what you mean when you say agroforestry.
Yeah. In years gone by, when we had the boom, the banana boom,
Hmm.
where we were using lots of chemical, that in itself deplete the nutrition in our soil, make our soil become dry, made our soil become. It's only God that save us, from not having the experience Martinique and Guadeloupe have. I went to Guadeloupe the other day, and they were showing me acres of land that they can't even plant not a tree there. Not even the cows they can tie there to eat the grass. Because if the cow eat the grass, the cow, the chemical, the residue goes into the cow. And if they eat that cow, the cow can, the meat can
Goes
give them
contaminates
cancer.
them.
So
Hmm.
that
Right.
tells you, and that is after almost 40, 50 years. So that tells you how dangerous these things are. And so what you find also, when we spray like that and we give it all this chemical, our soil got affected. But we are not thinking of that because we're checking, well, oh, we have a 10 hand and 15 hand banana. But then a couple, a rain come, a heavy rain come, all our topsoil wash. Um, a lot of things affect. A little wind blow, all our trees fall. So this is why I had to rethink and tell myself, I really do not want to continue. And not just that, it made us sick. A lot of our men were dying in the late 80s, 90s, 2000. A lot of our men were dying from cancer.
Hmm.
A lot of our men, and they were trying to wonder why so many, especially farmers, were dying like that. It's when they found out that is the chemical that used to go in their blood and would end up giving them cancer. So these things really, they are not good. They are really dangerous to the human being. So then agroforestry will help now to bring back the nutrients back in the soil. It will also help to stabilize the soil. It also helps to reduce the washing away of the topsoil during heavy rain. And then the other thing, a good thing about it is that you have a consistent supply of fruits that you normally would not have when you used to be in the thing. And these fruits, they are healthy fruits. Then we start using brush cutter. And the good thing about the brush cutter, when you use the brush cutter, it also helps to keep the soil together, even though it rains. Like when it's dry season, I don't really cut the grass. So then the moisture remains, the water remains. When it's rainy season, I cut, even though I cut low. I cut very low, but yet still I have tree cover. So when it rain, it's not falling direct on the soil like what it used to do before. So there are lots of advantages that you have when you are doing when you are doing agroforestry. And the good, as I said, the good thing about the agroforestry, the benefits of agroforestry, is not just the soil, but you have you have consistent fruits that you can sell, you can buy for juice, you can eat, and so agroforestry. I believe in Dominica. This is the way that we should go. This is the way that we should really go in Dominica in particular, because Dominica is a place that has produced an abundance of fruits. I heard, I said, again, go back to Eva, Nassif, and these guys, they were talking about Money God, who started dumb fruit. And
Mm.
I said that he started dumb fruit, and then he got a chemist from Germany who came down and assist him in bringing it to market standard. And I remember dumb fruit. It is still in my mouth. I always
I
say,
remember them fruit, yeah, vaguely, yeah.
his thing was
Mhm.
nice.
Yeah,
So
we had El Rose and those different
right,
things.
Elrose and Sons,
Mm-hmm.
and we had Bellu doing
Bello.
pepper and jams and jellies and things. So what we have to do is to reset, as you said. And I think we are in the best time of our life to reset, because everybody is talking about food shortage, farming. Everybody is talking about food security. But it is not, as I always tell them, it is not something that you put on paper. You have to put it on the ground, because I want to see what you when you talk about food security. I want to see what food security entails. It's not just telling me about food security. Food security, when I pass, I'm seeing vine, I'm seeing deer soil. I'm not seeing anything. Food security means that you have another 100 or 300 farmers going back into planting the land, and they are planting it in a different way where it can become more sustainable. And that's what you call in food security. So at any given time, you have food,
Mm-hmm.
you have fruits, you have anything, because you are planting. Because remember, when somebody talking about securities, which means that you are bringing yourself in a place where you become self-sufficient as a community and as a nation.
You know, did what I mean, people throw words around without necessarily stopping and thinking about what exactly those words mean, right? So when you talk about food security, security really means that you can have food available to eat no matter what else happens. If you have a big hurricane, you have a storm, you have a volcano, the food supply to your people is secure, and nobody is at risk of getting starved. When I was going to grammar school, I was maybe about 14 or 15. The FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, had an essay competition. And I remember at the time, the slogan was "Food for All" by the year 2000. I don't know if you remember that slogan.
Of course, I remember that.
Food for all by the year 2000. 2000 seemed like it was so far into the
Yeah.
future, right? And I remember I wrote an essay. I took part in that competition. It wasn't just a Dominican competition. It was because FAO is an international organization. And I sat down and I wrote an essay about what Dominica can do. That time everybody was in Dominica, was a small country. What Dominica can do to contribute to the achievement of the goal of food for all by the year 2000. And I say what we can do is what is within our capability, and what is within our capability is to make sure that we can provide all the food for our people inside of Dominica. So Dominica's contribution to Food for All, in my little teenage brain, was that we had to become self-sufficient in food. I mean, now that I am older, I will say not only we need to be self-sufficient, we need to produce enough food to supply our own needs and help out the other places that are not blessed with water and soil like we are, or a lot of our neighboring islands. And what I'm saying is that it is 26 years after. And not only the food for all wasn't achieved because there's still famine and food shortages, and millions of children go to bed hungry every night. So not only was that goal not achieved, but Dominica in itself has not achieved sufficiency in food. We still import almost all of our beef, all of our chicken, all kinds of stuff we still
All of
import.
our tomato, all
All the
of
tomatoes, carrots
our
we import.
cabbages,
As a matter of fact, we import them
carrots.
more now than we import than back
Yeah.
then. So we move in the wrong direction. And so that is one of the objectives I am sure that you and I have in when we decided that we're going to do this program, is to see how we can get Dominica to first of all achieve the goal of self-sufficiency in food, which would get us food security, but also becoming a net exporter of food
Yeah.
so that we can export food in the region. And then, so I ask you about agroforestry, but you mixed in climate smart farming in there, right? Because you also spoke about um, understanding the need to preserve your soil and what kind of crops and how you can farm those crops to protect the soil based on Dominica is a high rainfall area. A lot of our land is sloping, and you give really good ideas as to, well, no longer should you be. I still cringe when I see some photos. Some guys show photos of their farms, Adrian, in Dominica, and nowadays on Facebook, and I cringe when I see bare dirt,
Yeah.
and some of it is on sloping land. I see bare
Yeah.
dirt, and I'm saying, what happens on the first rainfall, the next rainfall? Uh, how is it that everybody doesn't has not yet gotten that message that you should not just clean your garden like it's like it's a concrete pavement, and you don't see not one blade of grass, and you figure, yes, my farm is in good condition. So tell me about the education part that is going on in terms of educating the public and farmers about good farming practices.
Well, our, as I said to you, our NGO, we had a lot of training
Mm,
on good farming practices, but not everybody that come.
right.
And then you hardly have that kind of education because we do not have media, we do not have access to the media because if you have to do a media program, you have to go and pay the money. But
Mhm,
this is something that I'm thinking of that we can start having at least once a month to approach the media house and to see how we can have that kind of education. Because I believe it is very important that education to make sure that we do healthy farming and the healthy farming not just planting healthy food, but we have to make sure everything that we do we focus on health. So how you plan the food, how you take care of it, what you put in it is important. When you harvest, how you harvest also is very important. You guys, in we can say so much that we can do. My God, sometimes I tell myself, I live it alone, not seeing. But I see there is so much that we can do in Dominica if we only, for instance, that NEP thing that they have, if they would just use buy, if the government would just take about a 500 acres and just put the NEP workers there and let them plant, you know how much Dominica would be able to produce food security. And that same grass that they cut in by Europe, you can have some cutting grass, some doing, and that same grass that you can turn into compost, and you can grow good organic food. But they as I always said, well, the governments, particularly this one, they work for votes, or they work to stay there. So they don't worry about you, they don't worry about anybody. But the thing is that I always tell people, tell farmers, we need to privatize. Farming is for the private in is for private entity,
Individuals. Hmm.
private entities.
Hmm.
And the best thing is to have like we have organization. You have
Cooperatives and yeah.
we have a group, a cooperative, we have a NGO, and that is what we are focusing on. And another aspect of farming that we haven't tapped into and we haven't recognized is bees. Bees is so valuable. Bees, my gosh, bees are
Yeah,
so
like the executive signing checks, sign one for me, while you're at it.
bees are so valuable to farming. And the other thing about the bees, when you have farming, when you have bees, you cannot spray and you cannot use chemicals.
Right, because the bees are easily poisoned by
You're right,
pesticides and
right.
other chemicals,
So
right?
so that is an awesome way of just and then you will be more productive. That is adding more value to your farm and make you more productive because bees love cucumbers, melon. I mean, just name it, fruit trees and all kind of things.
And then you get honey, and then you get natural
Right.
honey at the end of it all. Another thing I was watching was how it, they used to build towers and allow pigeons to come and roost in those towers,
Yeah.
and build in such a way that they would collect all of the waste of the pigeons, would pile up at the bottom of the tower, and they would sell it as fertilizer, and that sometimes would become the most valuable part of any farm. The
Right.
pigeons the pigeons would fly out, go forage, and every night they would come back to that tower and they would roost, and you get eggs, you get pigeon meat, and you also, but even the most valuable thing sometimes, that became the most valuable part of the farm. And if you study the history of agriculture, those towers became the possession of the highest, most wealthy people in the community, right? That the so much so that the local farmers were not allowed to have those towers. Only the nobles and the kings could have that, because the manure that they collected at the bottom of the tower was so valuable for their farming and for them to sell, that they would prevent local people from having them.
Right.
And so that's why I'm having the conversation in that sense, is that we need to look back at our history,
Yeah.
and not just our history, in agriculture, the history of agriculture, and discover what was implemented back then that was successful, and copy it, apply modern day technology to it, and watch it blossom and watch yield. But the government, as you said, has a different agenda. So we, as our own self, has to be able to collect our resources together, right? We collect our resources and we work together, because if you have two farmers working together, it's not one farmer plus, it's not an addition, it's a multiplication. So this the and we are five, and we have that experience in Dominica in terms of cooperative. In Casabruce, we had the Casabruce Farmers Cooperative with Afimate and Stafford Alfred and those guys, um, Sonny, Luis, and so on. All of these people, Rosilia, and those folks created the Dominica, the Casabruce Farmers Cooperative. And then the other young people, I think Billy, you were involved in Until Farming. Were you involved
Yeah,
in? You were involved in
yeah,
Until, yeah, Until
yeah,
Farmers
yeah. I
Cooperative.
was part of until.
And then in Riviera Civic, they had Yards
Yeah,
Cooperative. And in the Grand Bay area, they had another cooperative at Geneva. And those organizations became the major engines of production outside of the estates. They became the major producers. Some of them even surpassed the estates of agriculture and economic earning in the country. I don't know, we really need to, maybe we need to do a documentary that has all of those things in it, so that anybody can look at it and they can understand what we mean when we say that agriculture is still what it was back then. It is still the engine. And in Dominica, where we have so many things at our advantage, we have a lot of rainfall, we have very good topsoil, we have, unless we have a hurricane, we have very, very, very agriculture friendly climate. We just have to have the practices that minimizes the runoff from the slope, so that we don't lose too much of our topsoil. When I look and I see we have rainfall, and I see our rivers are so brown, like, oh my God, we just lost how many more thousand tons of earth, soil, topsoil, you know? So it's really urgent, because this has been going on for so many years. You ask yourself, how much more can the soil, and how much more can the country um, take before it becomes irreversible, or before
yeah,
it starts to adversely affect our food production. And so we have to find a way to get our young people involved in it. We have to be able to show them that it's a lucrative business. It's also a way towards their freedom and their independence, that they don't have to rely on somebody giving them a job, that they can just, tomorrow, they can just tell them, don't come anymore. If you have your own farm, nobody can tell you don't come back on your farm. Nobody can, you harvest your crop, you take it to market, you have your money, you put your money in your pocket. Nobody can tell you, well, we'll pay you next week, or you have to cut your lights or your phone, or whatever it is, because you didn't get paid. We have to be able to start to really sing and praise the benefits of agriculture, and really encourage our young people to go into agriculture. So you said you want to go into organic farming. Are you still signing checks?
yeah. It's
When you sign mine, you can stop.
yeah.
No, but
Yes, organic farming
organic farming. Uh-huh.
is going to be a real, what you call in, a real boost for Dominica, not just in terms of farming, but in terms of destination, because when persons come, that in itself is going to attract the nature lovers. So that is a means and ways that we can see more nature lovers coming into Dominica, more tourists coming into Dominica,
Health conscious people.
health conscious people, and they will come to and enjoy what we have in Dominica because it is natural. And so we have to take it to on a high level. It's not just saying we're going to, but we have to make sure what we're doing, we do it with a sense of professionalism and excellence
Mhm.
to make sure whatever we do, that when persons come, they can feel, yeah, they can learn from us, they can go back and implement, they can also enjoy what we have. Because we have a lot of nature that people can enjoy. And if they are getting healthy food to eat, and people are looking to come to farms right now, come and enjoy what we have in the communities. People don't go into hotels anymore. I mean, people, because it's cheaper for them in any case. If they come
And the experience is richer.
and the experience is right, it's rich.
Mhm.
So yeah, so and so we have to integrate traditional farming with modern day farming. And traditional farming talks about farming with the moon phase, using the different ways that of parents used to farm. How they used to plant the tanya, how they used to plant the banana, how they used to, and they used to get good yields when the way they used to do it. And so and as I always say, my experience, I have gotten, well, since I go back to traditional farming, I have seen a tremendous growth in my yields, and a tremendous, the farm itself, how the farm has come is because of using traditional ways of farming. It have pruning. Pruning is one of the best thing that you can do when you are planting tree crops. If you want to really have your tree crop trees bearing a lot, because you don't want to have it bushy. You want to make sure you remove, you keep the center clear, so the sun can come in and the wind can pass through. So that is helping the tree to be able to have access
Right.
to
And
the
it's not
elements,
wasting
and,
energy and
right,
nutrients
and then
carrying a whole
they
bunch
have
of
enough
branches.
energy so the tree now
Yeah.
can flower and produce well.
Yeah.
And that making it also I never miss, even though the crop finish, I still have it.
Right. Right. You know, I think part of the challenge that we have is that our culturally we are a community that does oral storytelling. We don't write things down enough, and
Yeah,
so we as we develop this, so that's why this program is also important, because this program is recorded. you know 50 years from now, when neither you or I will be here anymore, somebody can get this recording and they can benefit from the knowledge that we're sharing on this program. We need to be able to document and to record
yeah,
what we are doing and the results of it, the successes, and what we tried that was not so successful. I remember when our banana preferential treatment was being challenged for access to the market in the United Kingdom. I remember Afi Martin was on the radio touting the benefits of organic farming, and he was really pleading with the government and with people and with individual farmers to really understand organic farming, and to understand before niche. When you talk about niche marketing nowadays, is a cliche and it's an everyday word. Afi used to be on the radio telling folks we can create a niche that, even though we lose the big volume of the market, we can have a special niche where we produce high quality bananas that we can label as organic, and that in itself would sell for so much more money that it would replace the volume that we would lose. We would not be competing with the same multinational companies, the Monsanto and those companies, Del Monte and so on, that were trying to remove our preferential treatment. We will not be competing with them because they are not in the organic banana industry. And everybody ignored that, and by and large, and people just continue
I know.
as they were going. And now Now, some 40 years later, maybe 30 years later, everybody is into organic. But can you imagine if we had listened and we had established ourselves as an organic island back then, how much ahead of the curve we would be? And so we have to move our agriculture into an era where it is modernized. And what I mean by modernized is if we say we are organic, somebody need to be able to pull up a document somewhere that
Yeah,
confirms what we mean when we say it's organic. That farm has been or not used chemical pesticides and herbicides for the last 20 years or 15 years or 25 years, whatever standard that we create. We have to be able to have it in writing, and you can pull up that document and somebody says, what makes you say your product is organic? We say our product is organic because these are the standards that we establish for ourselves as it being organic, and our produce meet those standards, and therefore we say it's organic. You can say it's not organic if you want because you're operating from a different standard, but according to us, it is organic, and we have to, and that is one of the aspects of modernization. It has to be standardization and documentation that anybody can come and inspect. And so folks will understand what you mean when you say it's organic, and therefore it simplifies and facilitates the marketing of your product. And so that in itself opens up so much opportunity for our young people who are technology, comfortable with technology and gadgets, or young people who can program computers, or young people who are experts at social media marketing and all of those things. There's room in the agriculture industry for all of those people. And it's not just so we have those that farm and take care of the farms, we have those that harvest, but we also have those that assist with logistics, those that assist with documentation, those that assist in quality control, those that assist
wow.
in shipping and packaging and all of those things. So that's what we mean when we talk about making agriculture great again. Is not going back to where we had to use ox to turn a mill, to crush cane and collect cane juice and light fire with wood, make molasses and whatever. No, what we're talking about is taking the lessons that we learned from back then, how do we apply it to today, and how can we set targets, and we can establish um, production that is predictable, right? So, Adrian, we are at 9 o'clock. I'm going to give
Yeah.
you the opportunity to make some closing remarks, just
You
generally
guys see
about.
somebody asking, Alvin Thomas asking about the.
We would like to hear your ban on the provision of this year's 20. We'll do this next time, because we're already at 9 p.m.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so, in general, let's get some closing remarks on the whole outlook, your experience as somebody who's on the ground, boots on the ground at ground zero. What do you see that we need to do to successfully take agriculture, put it back under the hood as the engine of the economic activity and growth in Dominica?
Yeah, one, we have to have a strategic plan of how we're going to take agriculture forward. Number two, we have to educate the farmers on what kind type of agriculture, what kind of agriculture we want to develop. Three, we have to ensure that we get the farmers, we provide the plants and provide an avenue or environment where the farmers now can have access to plants,
Mhm.
because most times you find farmers don't have access to plant because of the way that farmers plant in Dominica. Farmers plant in Dominica only when they see something selling, like planting selling, it's not to
Mhm.
God plant. Dashing selling is not the good. So they always come in and ask for plants and go there. But it's when they see people buying and people selling, then, but it's not something where they would say, okay, that is what I'm doing, farming I'm doing. So I want to make sure every 2 months I have access to plants so I can plant every 2 months so I can have enough production for the year, for the next year, for the next 5 years. So I have a systematic way of planting. So this is something that we have to keep educating. Number 4 or number 5, data. We need to have data. I find in Dominica, for a big country like Dominica, and so long Dominica is involved in agriculture, there is no data on anything. As a matter of fact, I asked someone for data, telling me that is what they have, and they don't know. So just multiply this by that and add. I mean, what is that? What is that? Now there is another one I called for so long. Them they sent it for me 2 days now. I cannot get it. So this is something that I really want to focus on this after our AGM. As I said, our AGM will be on the 12th of September. That's our NGO.
Oh
And
yeah, oh yeah. We said that we would do
yeah.
we would do our next program on that.
So
Yeah.
our next program, I will call it, bring at least 1 or 2. And then we want to focus on data to make sure that everything in agriculture we document it. How many acres we have, how many farmers we have, how many acres the farmer have on the production, and what they haven't got on the production they're looking forward to have, what amount of waste. We just want to make sure that all the relevant data that we need, that we want to make sure we document it. All right. So that's where I come to a close.
Yeah, and I mean those are really important points that you raise in terms of what do we have to do to move agriculture from where it is right now in like sort of a lackluster kind of way, to bring it back into the vibrancy that it was, but bringing it back in a controlled environment
Right.
where we're not jumping back to immediate satisfaction by using chemical fertilizer or using pesticides, or that any kind of practices that does not make the agriculture sustainable. So it's as if you have, let's bring it in front of chicken. Let's say we're selling eggs. For you to continue to sell eggs, you have to keep your flock of chicks healthy. Similarly, if you're producing food, you have to keep your soil healthy. You cannot go all out and just dump chemical in your plants and on your soil and say, well, okay, I'm going to make $10,000 this year, $10,000 next year, but by the third year it drops to 8, and it drops to 6, and it drops to 4 because we are not doing sustainable practices.
Right.
Another area where that is very obvious is in fishing.
Yeah.
If we just go out and use dynamite and that kind of thing, so you can maximize how much, because people used to use dynamite to fish before. Um, you know, explode dynamite in the water, the fish get stunned, and you just drag them on the boat and bring them back in and sell them. People used to fish that way, believe it or not. But everybody, you don't have to tell somebody that is not sustainable, because at the end of the day, you're killing fish you want, you're killing
Everything.
fish you don't want, you're killing everything. So it's similarly, people have to understand with agriculture, when you spray chemical on your farm, you're not just killing the grass, you're killing the worms and everything that's in the soil, making your soil healthy. You're killing it, going into the plants that you're going to eat. The seeds that's in the soil waiting to sprout, it kills that. After a while, you just have dead dirt. And so we have to be able to when we bring agriculture back, we have to be able to do it in a way
Yeah.
where people understand the implications and the reason why we're asking them to do it the way they will do it. And we know our farmers can do it.
Of course.
In the time of bananas, Adrian, I always say I have seen farmers in Dominica who people used to think were crude and rough and uneducated and whatever else they used to say about farmers. Farmers in Dominica used to be able to go in their farm that's in the mountainside, in rain, in mud, and produce bananas of a quality that when it get to England, the only thing they had to do was take the cover off the box and put it on the shelf for the for the
Yeah,
for the people to come and buy.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
yeah, that kind of quality coming from the heights of Bactakin or Belfi or whatever it is in rain, and you have to carry that and keep it dry. And you falling, but your box of manners on your head, not shaking because you don't want to bruise them. And if your fingernail just make a mark on it, you have to reject that hand. And for you to be able to produce that in the field and take it all the way to England, put it in a supermarket, Tesco or one of those big supermarkets, and all you do is take out the cover and it's right there on display as a beautiful bunch of bananas. If our farmers could learn to do that, there's nothing that we cannot train our
And
farmers to do.
and Dominican to have a brand. We need to have a brand.
Exactly. And so
So
that's why I say that the young people, there's a place for them in the marketing of the
yeah.
produce and all of that because they're skilled at it. That's their skill.
What
You know,
Alvin saying there? What Alvin saying there?
Alvin said the math not mathing. Um, Meaningful comments on provisions for agriculture. Alvin has to tune in the next time when we talk about the NGO
But
board
one of those
meeting.
days we must bring him on the program with
Alvin from
us.
Rosal, Alvin don't know nothing about agriculture. No, but I'm serious though. We, that he could bring a different perspective
Yeah,
because
yeah.
as a business person,
Right.
and an experienced consumer, because he would be consuming the fruits
I think
and
he'll have a lot to offer
he would have a lot to offer.
if our
And
discussion.
the ideas, because that's exactly what we're saying. Don't just think of agriculture
Yeah,
as
in a
as
vacuum.
what happens on the farm. Agriculture involves so many other careers
Aspect.
and so on. So Alvin Adrian is inviting you to the Green Maga show. Make up your mind when you want to come. Um,
Yeah, he does let
and,
us know. If he,
all right. So Adrian, I want to tell you thank you.
yes.
And continue to do what you do. You are definitely um, expanding your knowledge into wider and wider circles. And not only you're not just talking, you actually have the action and the results to show for what's happening on your farm and your family. Not just you, your family is also involved in it. And so they have the young people, everybody can show and look at you and what and your family does and take good example of what agriculture can be in 2026. So I want to thank you so much for coming on again on this episode.
You're welcome. If anybody like to contact me, you can call 1767-245-1460. 1767-245-1460. You can WhatsApp me, if then you can call me, or you can email me at augustusbanis@gmail.com.
augustusbanis@gmail.com. All right,
Yeah.
folks, you got it. And so, Adrian, thank you so much, and all the best for the remainder of the week to you and your family.
Same here, man, my brother.
Okay,
Always a
good night.
pleasure being talking with you.
Always, we always have good discussions,
Yes.
and the audience appreciates it as well.
All right. So good night,
All right, good
everybody.
night.
Have a good night rest.
All right, good night. And
Yeah.
thanks to the audience for staying on. The usual, and even some new ones, but Alvin and Andrea and Alexandra and Sophs and who else. For whatever reason, the comments were not showing up on my panel. Uh, but so, folks, you have it. We're doing this program because we believe that agriculture is the key to development of Dominica and a lot of the other islands in the Caribbean. We are involved. They're trying to take our country to a place where people don't want to put their hands in the soil. They don't want mud on their shoes or whatever it is. But we see where that has taken us. That has taken us into a place of dependency, It has taken us into a place of uncertainty. It has taken us into a place where our independence celebration is so hollow because we don't feel independent. We feel so many people have control over our destiny. With the European Union saying, hey, stop that. We're only giving you 18 months to stop that behavior. Otherwise, we're going to do this and that to you. And we don't have a leg to stand on in response because we're so dependent on things that are happening outside of the country. Agriculture is what can empower each and all of us as citizens. And if we are empowered as individual citizens, guess what? We are also empowered as a country. And if you have your piece of land and you can farm it and make your own money, you can make your own food, you can share with your neighbor, you can barter, you can do that. Independence in itself is worth so much more than a clean shoe and a clean shirt and your pockets empty. And we really have an objective to make agriculture great again in Dominica. Our Green MAGA program is on. So, folks, I want to tell you thank you for being with us and staying with us throughout. I want to remind you that if you have not reconfirmed on the voters list, to go and do so. You see how now we have a by-election in Roseau North. If you are not, if you didn't take my advice and go to register, that window is closing fast, and you may want to be able to exercise your vote, and you're not able. So I want everybody to make a commitment to go and get reconfirmed on the list. Going to reconfirm doesn't mean you're going to vote, although I do want everybody to make a commitment to vote. But going to re-register is not saying that you're going to vote. Going to reconfirm yourself on the list is saying that I want to have the option to be able to vote when an election is called. And I think that most of you will agree with me that at the head of governance in Dominica, we need a change. We need to change from the current government and give somebody else a try because this government is tired. It's only when you're tired you make the kind of mistakes that they've been making, mistake upon mistake upon mistake upon mistake. And every time and every turn, it's just closing in on them so they're tired. We need to elect a different group of people to run the affairs of the country. And like I said, nothing is in stone. If you try a new set of people and it doesn't work out, you take them out and put somebody else. That's what we have to do until we arrive at a group of people who seem to understand what it takes and can implement what they talk about. So let's make sure that you go and you reconfirm to give yourself a choice to do that. Give yourself a choice to have a government that you can be proud of. When somebody says, where you from? You're from Dominica. Oh, yeah, but oh, I know about that place. They're the country that's the most organic island in the Caribbean, or they are the country where they're producing most of their electricity from renewable energy, and they have so much that they know their electricity is one of the cheapest rates in the world, and they always have power and their power is always on, and they do it in such a way that they're not polluting the environment, they're not threatening their water supply. Let us let us move away from where we're heading right now, where every time we hear about Dominica in an international setting, it is something negative. Because you never see when you come home from work and you're tired, but you have something to do, you're trying to do it, but things keep falling from your hand, something break, something fall, you're irritable, somebody says something to you, you snap at them because you're tired. That is so clear that that is where this current prime minister and the government are. So I think we need a change. We need some fresh people in there. Let's try them. They cannot. I honestly believe that trying a new set of people cannot do worse than what's happening to the country right now. Um, so go reconfirm so that if you're from the North Rosa North constituency, you can exercise your right to choose. And elections is due right after, soon after that. The Rosenhoff by-election is scheduled for the 7th of September, so it's only 3 weeks away. So we really need to understand that as a citizen, if you are eligible to vote in Dominica, right? If you're eligible to vote, that you go out and reconfirm so that you have the option to vote. I know I repeated it 10 times, but I'm repeating it until we get it. Go and vote. Some people say it's a little bit of a complex process, but we do complex things all the time. So just be patient with it. Don't be frustrated with it. Go and reconfirm. Put aside some time to do it and tell yourself that you're going to do everything they tell you they want. Give it to them. If you don't have it, go back and get it and come back. Um, then they see enough people coming back, they will start to make it easier for folks. All right. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I want you to have a wonderful rest of the week. I know there are quite a few um, people who are passing on. So if you've been affected by one of those incidents, I wish you comfort, and may your loved one rest in peace. And of course, some people are graduating, some people are celebrating anniversaries and birthdays. Enjoy your celebration as well. So, folks, I want to say good night and come back again next week, Wednesday, for another episode of This Week in Interview with your host, Anthony Drago. Thank you so much for staying tuned, listeners. Good night.